Fiat money and debt. There is much information available about the nature of money and how it is manipulated, so I will only touch upon it here. Essentially, all money is debt. Money used to be a paper representation of gold and silver, metals that were considered valuable. Money has long since come to represent nothing. The value of money has become distorted. Money is no longer backed by gold or silver, or if it is, there is so much more paper money per unit of valuable metal that it is almost negligible anyway. We are said to be using fiat currency. It is only our agreement to exchange paper vouchers, i.e. money, as a representation of our own energy that gives money any perceived value at all. Of course, it is convenient to adopt this, since I may not have need of what your services are, but I may still want to give you my own skills or service, and so exchanging them for a paper voucher that is widely recognized as valuable is convenient. I can exchange it for the things I require instead. When you take a loan from a bank, it has no genuine capital to lend you. The capital reserves of a bank are so small in comparison to the amounts they lend out that they are really lending you thin air or zeros on a screen. There is no substance behind the intended loan. They take for granted that you will pay out your energy and at a rate of interest too. They have lent you nothing of value but take from you the value of the loan by the energy or the work you did to repay the loan, plus an interest on top. Banks that create money and debt, and in particular the Federal Reserve along with the International Monetary Fund and the Bank for International Settlements, constitutes a network of master control and manipulation over the entire planet's collective wealth. These organisations, through a cleverly connected covert network, have reached almost every corner of power with respect to money, finances and business. Their stronghold over our perceptions of money and debt and what value money has is what keeps us in a loop of lack and poverty, or running on a treadmill and never winning the race. In view of this, please take note of the following facts. Debt is fraud. You have been deceived and have borrowed nothing of value. Usury is unlawful. Taking extortionate interest on money is usury and is fraud where no value was ever lent in the first place. The common practices and methods I have described, which are standard within the financial establishment, are nothing more than an illusion. It is smoke and mirrors to deceive you and trick you into giving away your value, your energy. The legal name is fraud. Because of the birth certificate, the use of subtle implicit signs, language and symbols, because of manufacturing your consent to partake in a game which you are not made aware of, which results in your injury, harm and loss by having your money and other property extorted from you on the pretence of and under the colour of law and office, you have been deceived and therefore treated unlawfully. And not only that, you have been a victim of fraud at the highest levels. It is a gross breach of trust and a dereliction of duty on the part of the official representatives, who are ironically civil servants, whose official clothing symbolically represents that with their collars, cuffs, neckties and pinstripes. The good news is that this is a very strong position to come from and a great barrel to hold these people over long enough to wriggle yourself out of your shackles and then run for the hills. By observing that you are aiding and abetting fraud in their system, you have every honourable reason to retract and desist from participating in anything that requires a legal name. Legalese, the language of legalities. Legalese is a word given to the language spoken in a court or when dealing with any legalities. There are pages of definitions for the simple word person within the legal dictionary, Black's Law Dictionary, as an example of this kind of deception. It is a very deceptive, pernicious approach to manipulating you without your knowledge or explicit, conscious intention to consent. You say or hear words which are in essence English, but in the court hearing system, your words are intentionally misheard and reinterpreted under a phonetic sounding system to be manipulated to mean whatever is required by the so-called judge or justice to make the person liable so that he or she can earn the fee. See Clausula rebus sic stantibus, Kate of Gaia. Please visit Kate of Guy's website for some very interesting writings, including the BCCRS. You may have noticed that in the correspondence that comes from the Council regarding tax, etc., you are referred to as you. You must not, you this, you that. It is my observation that this title, you, is another legalese ploy to detach one from one's self, one's true self, the human. Human, human. It is another phonetic manipulation to divorce the sovereign woman from his/her rights by tricking him to being a you, absent of the man. UK corporation. The UK corporation is a business, not a country. The land is still the land, and you walk upon it, but when you claim your national insurance number, you sign up for a job in the UK corporation. You are now a taxpayer investing funds. You agree to be surety and national security. You are being farmed for everything you are worth to fund the UK corporation. Have you checked where your contributions are going? Did you get a worthwhile return on your investments? Have you audited the accounts lately? Did you see your company's assets were held in safe hands and were well managed? Or are you just the stock that's been milked? Reduced status. Capitis diminution maxima, all capital letters. Capitis diminution media, sentence case letters. Capitis diminution minima, lowercase letters. Under the Roman law, civil jurisdiction, implicit meanings are given to the way text appears when written. When written in capitals, one's status is indicated as a maximum level of reduced status, i.e., indicating a slave. Responsibility. Taking responsibility for your actions is the equivalent of claiming your power and sovereignty over your own person by becoming yourself instead, so that you can interact with or alongside the system but on your terms. Taking responsibility is giving yourself the ability to respond in a way that is empowering to you. You are no longer the mask on the man or the woman. You are the man or the woman, standing on your sovereign authority, claiming full inalienable rights. You are on your own authority. You no longer need to be nannied or taught how to behave, or put in a pen because you did not observe the boundaries. You are acting in your full capacity as a man or woman. You are the author of your own reality. You think for yourself, you speak from your heart and your soul, demonstrating you are actual flesh and blood, capable of behaving responsibly and with honour. Holographic reality. In Black's Law's dictionary, I stumbled across this word holograph one day when I was looking for a different definition for another word. Here is the definition from the 4th edition of Black's Law Dictionary. Holograph, an instrument, e.g. a will, wholly written by the person from whom it emanates. Holographic testament. The holographic testament is that which is written by the testator himself. In order to be valid, it must be entirely written, dated and signed by the hand of the testator. It is subject to no other form, and it may be made anywhere. This is a lawful holographic testament and declaration of sovereign free will. The author and issuer of this lawful instrument warrants that this is a true and accurate presentation of the natural, living, private individual woman of live birth and her/his will, practising all of her/his inalienable birthrights granted under the natural law, standing on her/his own sovereign authority as a co-creator and beneficiary of sovereign free will, subject to none but the divine will alone. Any challenges to the authority of this instrument is hereby void by consideration of jurisdiction, authority and subject matter. Any attempt to force submission under a foreign jurisdiction, either explicitly or implicitly, by any means, including the use of, but not limited to, capitis diminutio maxima or media, the birth certificate, and all legal forms, and enforcing of acts and statutes, constitutes harm and duress, and is a common law offence. Any claim upon the individual and holder of this instrument or perceived associated person shall be duly noted as defamation, injury, and infringing upon a lawful individual's inalienable rights to be recognised solely under natural law and common law jurisdiction. Any state-issued document is rendered entirely subordinate to this testament, and holds no virtue of power or jurisdiction over the individual whom bears it. Any person requiring the use of state-issued documents by the individual and testator of this instrument is enticing to aid and abet in perpetuating fraud under a foreign jurisdiction. Therefore, any documentation issued is done so strictly by agreement to terms and conditions herein, and thereby wholly accepts the spirit of this instrument at face value. Non-negotiable. Agreement is made by virtue of issuing this notice or any other documentation required, and serves to protect the living, private individual woman from legal name fraud, mistake, or deception when interacting by necessity with the currently illegitimate de facto established order, corporate body, state office, or representative thereof. You are deemed to have been served notice effective immediately to prevent any misrepresentation of status, circumstance, or intention from the outset, and to preserve the will, sovereignty, and all inalienable rights of the private individual concerned, all rights reserved, without prejudice. Notice to agent is notice to principal. Notice to principal is notice to agent. Postcode or subtle code. Your postcode is another implicit indicator that you are a corporation, or that you are a public person acting in a public corporate capacity for the UK corporation. Having spent a year tackling all of my corporate interests and writing off all debts, utility bills, council tax, bank overdraft and more, I am now able to have the luxury of sealing my letterbox and never coming home to junk mail or paper terrorism, enjoying a truly private home life. All corporate correspondence is barred until further notice. Registration. Registering yourself for anything is an agreement or a consent to become part of that system, which may have its own rules and expectations to abide by. Joining a gym, for example, you have an induction to use the machines safely, and you are required to operate them accordingly, otherwise you may have your membership cancelled. In relation to the legal system, by registering to vote and become a part of the democratic system, you are resigning from your sovereignty and your inalienable rights in favour of adopting the new system's rules. Castration, the removal of your crown jewels. Registration, the removal of sovereign status, regis or regal. The parallels between the game of chess and life in this realm are considerable. Now we are becoming more savvy in reading symbols and signs and the subtle language that previously held power over us. We can keenly observe and use this knowledge to our advantage. By using a conditional acceptance, we are using a chess move equivalent to that of a fork. It is a double-pronged attack which usually results in gaining a piece of the opponent's material. We set up an offer to contract by offering to settle the debt or dispute, but ask for their proofs of the debt being lawful. We attach any conditions required of them to prove their claim that you owe them the alleged debt, and we give them a chance to respond. We also attach conditions which, if in the event of them not responding by any given deadline or providing the proof as required by your terms and conditions, that they have tacitly agreed to your terms anyway, this leaves no loophole, no escape. Take notice of the checkerboard patterns on the jacket, and also in particular it's in your face, the pawn shaped object on top of his helmet. It goes above his head. You'll also see the checkerboard on the uniforms and the cars. This has become less obvious lately as they are changing colours and designs, covering the in-your-face obviousness of it. When the pawns, you and me, successfully make our way across the seas of duality, the dark and light, we claim our power and become a queen, a sovereign, with all the room to move freely. A pawn will have a better chance of making it if it sticks together with others. Incidentally, the Masonic symbolism boldly displays the checkerboard features. Equally, within the analogy of the Admiralty, a master is in control of his vessel.